online book group until January 12th. Will be Understanding Your Soul, the Unchanneled Wisdom of Jesus by Christine Bush. Reading Divine Audacity by Linda Martell. Powers by Living a Deep and Authentic Life. A Course in Mondays. Course in Day. Wow, no football, huh? Okay, Thursday's time of silent prayer and meditation for world peace is 7 p.m. Please join us for a 20-minute time of silent meditation as we visualize our world in blessed peace. Thanks so much to those of you who continue to support the community through your tithes and love offerings. Your generous donations enable us to keep our building full of spiritual seekers and other community groups throughout the month. We appreciate you. The church's 10% tithe this week will go to Unity World Headquarters. Please hold them in your heart as we affirm our offering blessing. I will affirm it once, then repeat it with me. I open my heart to love. All that I give and all that I receive is blessed and multiplied from a joyful heart of love. One more time. I open my heart to love. All that I give and all that I receive is blessed and multiplied from a joyful heart of love. Would our usher board members please come forward to pass the offering basket? Thank you, Jenny. Before we speak, I will affirm, ask you to join me for 2 more times. There is only one presence and one power in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. Together. One presence and one power in my life, the goodness of God. And again, there is only one presence and one power in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. In addition, the unity affirmation, I'll affirm it once and ask you to join. We are unity. Our unity of Missoula. We are a radiating center of divine love, open to all. We are God's light, peace, and joy wherever we are. Unity of Missoula maintains a people who have made a commitment to pray every day for others at their request. If you have names of people to hold in prayer for a month, you may place their name in the prayer box located on the altar, or call the church and leave a message with those names. Their names will be sent out to our prayer circle and to Silent Unity for 30 days of prayer. Please join me in prayer for a moment as we hold all of them in our hearts. You may also now say aloud or silently the names of those you wish to bring into this time of prayer. Dear God, we hold these friends and loved ones in our hearts. We behold their lights as expressions of the indwelling Christ. We release them to your care and affirm divine order in their lives and ours. Thank you, God. Amen. Here's Mark Kenny to lead us in singing Angels We Have Heard on High. Words are on the wall.
Well, hey, everybody. It's good to see so many of us here today. We'll stand up for those who wish to, and just have a lot of fun. Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing holy plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. Gloria, Sis Deo, Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Shepherds by this jubilee, your joyous prolong, say what may tidings be, which inspire your heavenly song. Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Come to Bethlehem and see him whose birth the angels sing. Come, adore me, Christ the Lord, the newborn King. Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Gloria, in excelsis Deo.
Okay. Today's speaker is Valen Valdesen, and I'm really looking forward to what she has to say. She has explored many, many spiritual paths. Her, and I was going to say long life, but You may be younger than me, so I won't. Maybe. Okay, we'll talk about that later. We'll go around and we'll each say our ages. Okay, no. So she's going to talk about that today, and I'm very excited to hear what she has to say. Thank you. Please welcome Val-Ann Valderson.
Good morning! I'm just still a little impaired. The mic must be on, right? Definitely. Okay, hello. It's almost solstice. Here comes the sun, right? I put on something bright because I knew I had to compete with all the other lights that were up here and all the other shiny things. So anyway, this is my solstice outfit. So anyway, I've been wearing this thing on my leg here for 3 months now, and I'm getting really tired of it. It mostly means I haven't been able to drive a car for 3 months, so I've had to ask other people for rides and help, and it's hard being not independent. Anyway, so there are a lot of things going on. Obviously a busy day up here. And anyone? Oh, there we go, couple. I'm green, right? No? All right, yes. I'm the Wicked Witch, right? The green, that's how she says hello, yes. And they flip their hair and all the little things that they do. It was a pretty fun movie. I didn't ever see the first one, but it was fun to see the second one. I remember a few weeks ago, Michael Kanique, and thank you for being up there in the bird's nest there, had something that he said in his talk about having a friend that was a sandpaper friend, the person who kind of rubs off the rough edges of yourself and kind of makes you better. So now we have a song for that. Because I knew you, I have been changed for good. One of the best things out of the movie. Because I knew you, I have been changed for good. Yeah, and I can say that about a lot of people. I hope that a lot of people could say it about me. Anyway, so there's still a lot of people out here that I know. I have to see Michael over there. Michael I met years and years ago, back in about 95 or 6 or something like that, because I had a store, and he used to come into my store. And he was always buying cool little things because he worked with the youth group at Unity. And he was always buying cool little things to do with the students there. And it was always nice. And then another person from Unity showed up at my store and became a friend because she was interested in all the metaphysical things that I was. That was Bea Arline, and she was a minister at Unity, and she was a good friend for a while. And that's when I first got attached to Unity years ago. And then when she left, I didn't come for a while, but now I've been back for probably 10 years. And I'm 74, Kathy, so I think I am older than you. Barely. But okay. But that's old enough anyway. Anyway, I've still kind of been around here for a while. I got to say, the other thing I like about Wicked for Good, it's closer to my idea of a happy ending, right? The politician gets recognized for being a fake and eventually gets sent away, right? The girl who flips, the ditzy blonde who flips her hair all the time, learns something and doesn't get the prince. The green, independent thinking, uniquely different woman gets the prince, right? Now that's really, she gets the love interest. Anyway, that's about time. The movie should end like that anyway. Okay, well, back to one of the things that are here, because there's a lot of stuff going on here. There's all these different images of the season, and they're all definitely, obviously, around solstice, which is the returning of the sun, which is next weekend, right? Next Sunday. We start having just a little bit more light every day in the morning. But all these things kind of started to keep us going through the winter because most of our ancestors lived in very cold places without much food and warmth in the winter, so we needed to keep going. So over there is Advent, and those 3 candles, this is the 3rd Sunday in Advent. They each had a different day. This is the 3rd Sunday of Advent, and the word for Sunday is, again, love. So they keep cycling around. That word love is going to be around all the time. The 4th Sunday, which is the end, is joy. And apparently, back in the Middle Ages, Advent was considered a much bigger holiday even than Christmas. You know, it took them a while for the Catholic Church to decide Christmas was okay to be. They didn't actually, a pope decided Christmas would be in December on the Roman holiday of solstice back in 454 AD. It wasn't until the 4th century that they finally decided to do that. Would you give me my glasses out of my purse? That was a mistake I made. Always something, right? Always something's on the other side of the page. So this week, so I see all of these things. And yes, the Advent time was set by the Catholic popes. The other thing that I see very clearly here, and I don't want to disturb it, Shalom. So the Hanukkah candles. Hanukkah actually officially starts at sunset on December 14th. So the center candle is the one lit all the time because that lights the other 8 candles for the 8 days that are acknowledged for Hanukkah, for all the time, the 8 days that the oil was allowed to burn when they only thought they had oil enough for one. There's stories around that. But only the center candle could be lit yet because the other one would be lit. The first one would be lit tonight at sunset, and then at sunset on the next 7 days. But they've been doing that for a long time. Hanukkah means renewal and to dedicate. And it's set by their lunar calendar, and they've been doing their lunar calendar for 5,786 years. So they've been keeping track of stuff for a lot longer than we have. So, you know, that's always nice. So we have all sorts of Christmas things around, right? As I said, it was set in the date of 25th December, 354 AD. Finally, in the 4th century, they decided, and that was the date of the Roman winter solstice. Now, I'm not complaining, but we live in a time now where we're kind of into accurate research historically, right? So I think that's important. Did anyone see a program on TV this last week on Tuesday? Kevin Costner presents The First Christmas. Did you enjoy it? Oh, you saw it? I thought it was great, actually. It's like a Ken Burns documentary on the first Christmas. And it's pretty nice, right? It's just Kevin Costner being kind of gentle and walking around, remembering being an 8-year-old boy doing his Christmas pageants when he was young, being a shepherd and not being able to remember his line at the right time because his turban kept falling over his head, and then being a wise man, but being unable to pronounce his line, which was frankincense. Okay, frankincense. Anyway, it was pretty cute. And it was really done very gently, which I appreciate, because you could watch it as a skeptic or a believer and not be insulted by either one. You could watch it as a historian, and it was pretty interesting. You know, it's the kind of documentary that's done with live action, where there's a lot of nice scenes of the historical context. And it was really done nice in terms of the settings, the costumes, the skin color was appropriate, the hair color was appropriate. There were no blondes, right, in Judea. And there was poverty all around, you know. It wasn't looking exciting. And there was commentaries by experts. But it was very accurate historical settings. And the scenes were set simply, starting with an unwed, pregnant teenage girl with a strange story, right? What does she do? What's she gonna do? But there was a lot of actual Jewish tradition. The scene opened with the betrothal, where Joseph had come up with 200 silver shekels as his bride price and paid the family the bride price, which is how it would have been for real. And they were working on making wine for their wedding in 2 months. But then Angel Gabriel shows up, but he shows up with a human face and in his military gear and sword, and just talks to them. So it's not kind of very exotic or anything. Anyway, they go through figuring out how their family's gonna deal with it, because this is potential all sorts of, she could be killed or stoned for being an unwed pregnant teenager, right? So it also shows very vividly, which I appreciated, the Roman oppression. There are scenes of the soldiers harassing them, killing people, all the different things that the Roman occupation literally did mean to the Jews, and that they couldn't worship in the temple, that all sorts of things were destroyed. They were abusive, and they used the Samaritans as their guards. So that's why the Jews and the Samaritans kind of hated each other. And it also shows very truly the cruelty of Herod. He was really insane, pretty much, and crazy and paranoid. He killed his own son. He had his wife killed because he was afraid anybody else would take his power. So the setting is of simple people trying to survive, and two teens in love, yet willing to do what is asked of them. And there's just a really nice, gentle way that he sets this. The interesting part I found also was the experts he used to commentary on things. There are 2 professors who are an Old Testament expert and a New Testament expert and an archaeologist. They had then there's like 4 spiritual commentators. One, a person named Francis Chan, who runs the Crazy Love Ministries, a Brazilian pastor of Zion Church, a mystic and professor from India, and then also a priest from the Helena Diocese, and he's interviewed inside the cathedral in Helena. So it's like really local somehow. I guess Kevin Costner must have gotten used to living in Montana these days for a while. Anyway, the story's acted out in realistic terms, the way they travel, and how she was going through her pregnancy. And when they finally get to Bethlehem, what's obvious is that they come there to stay with Joseph's relatives, right? His cousins, which live there. But there's already 7 other cousins there, because they all have to register at the same time. And the other quick, nice comment is that Bethlehem was too small of a village to even have an inn. So, you know, some of the stories you get from your songs, you know, have kind of shaped our things. And the shepherds were very real. The birth was real. Jesus came out and he had black hair, right? So the Magi, are, of course, identified as Zoroastrian astrologers, and history has figured out pretty clearly that they didn't come at the night of the birth. They came about when Jesus was somewhere between 2 and 3 years old. They had interactions. And they had come and to see Herod, right? Herod tried to trick them by having him tell where Jesus was born. He didn't do that. The Magi went back by a different path and didn't agree with Herod. That angered him to the point when he ordered all the babies killed, because historically that fits at Jesus' age of about 3 years. They know those kind of things from history. Anyway, there's enough, it's kind of like a version intelligently of science and faith together. Does that make sense? You know, I recommend it, but I really appreciate it on that level. I liked it being as real as possible. And it made me think quite a bit about where we get some of our own ideas of Christmas, right? We get them from our songs, Away in a Manger and all the little town of Bethlehem. It wasn't a town, actually. It was a little tiny village of maybe 200 people. So, yeah. And they stay wherever they are. And I thought maybe to have us think about, where did you get some of your ideas about Christmas? What do you believe about this time of year? What do you believe has to be done? One sad thing I remember is my mother, around Christmas time, who was a good Swedish mother and a great cook, and she was so busy at Christmas she had to feed everybody, and she had to have presents for everybody and cards for everybody. And she was also a school teacher, so she had all the things that the kids had made and everything set up for them. So she was so busy, I don't know that she ever enjoyed herself, but I know she felt like she had to do it. But also, what do you believe about Christmas? You know, do you believe it's a special time of year? What do you believe we're supposed to do? What do you believe about your family? About going to have dinner with them even if you don't like them? Some of the things we do because it's supposedly Christmas. Anyway, I just had to spend some time thinking about it. So it was a very respectful kind of update, because I really believe in that one tenet of ours. We create our reality, what we think and what we feel and what we believe. And sometimes I don't think we really have that much of a clue about what we believe. Because when we learned some of those things, we were really little, or we were traumatized, or we were upset, or we were scared, or we were unhappy, or we were terrified. Even whether we were adults or children, we learned things in all sorts of unconscious ways. And I appreciate that one aspect of Unity, that it tries to make us be conscious of what we think, conscious of what we believe. Because an awful lot of what we learn is completely unintentional. What we learned from our parents, what we absorbed from our grandparents, our culture, what we absorbed from our media all the time, that's just not intentional, you know, and we don't get to sort it out and make sure that it's really true. The story I really had to remember for myself was pretty sad. When I was quite young, my dad was pretty badly an alcoholic. It was fairly controlled, but it still got to him, especially at Christmas, because he had a lot of sadness from his family. He'd been kind of pushed out of his family by a nephew who wanted to take control of everything and all the money. And so he was really sad. He was very much alone at Christmas. But he remembered all the times when he was young at Christmas, and when I was very young, there were still some good Christmases. But the rest of the time at Christmas came, he used alcohol to kind of get through it. And I was not really aware of it when I was really young, but finally by the time I was a teenager, it was pretty obvious. And not that I really understood it at all, but it kind of definitely got deeply embedded in the old brain cells there. He pretty much stopped by the time I was in high school. He gave up drinking. And so I didn't experience that much as a young adult. But what happened was that when I was in college and then later when I was working, I found myself compelled to drink at Christmas for no reason. I really didn't hardly drink anywhere else, but I always thought, oh, well, I have to have brandy in my eggnog. And I'd go to some party and I'd drink at Christmas. It'd be the only time of the year. And it didn't occur to me for a long time why I did that. Hardly occurred to me until recently. But I did for a while. For several years, I just it was just alcohol had to be part of Christmas. Alcohol had to be part of Christmas. And that was the most unconscious thing that I ever had about drinking, because it didn't affect me in other ways. But boy, when I was sad, I still took that habit on, and it was in there. It was pretty deeply planted in there. Took a while for me to extract that, you know. If I had one of those memory wands, right? A Harry Potter one. So anyway, trying to figure out how we actually form the beliefs that we had and keep with them. But I always go back to one of my favorite little comments from Carl Jung. Thinking is difficult, that's why most people judge. Once more, thinking is difficult, that's why most people judge. We do that real automatically. So, as she said, I choose to study spirituality from a lot of different perspectives. I love all these different perspectives. I know I've at least been a Jew in a few lifetimes, so I got to remember doing that. And I'm sure I was a Catholic back in the Middle Ages at least. I think I remember getting persecuted for it. And because I've explored a lot of my past lifetimes, and I've been a little bit of everywhere. I have been in the Middle East too, I know. Another place I've been is with the Druids. And there's a person in Ronan who's a Druid teacher, and I've spent some time with, and I've really enjoyed that. In the Druid Oracle for the year, this has been the year of the snake. I don't know if that fits, but that's the year where you really have to confront the deepest version of yourself, the things that you've learned by instinct, the things you've learned by protection, the things you've learned in survival, and then you shed that skin. That's been really true for me this year. There's been an awful lot of letting go, a lot of deeply that. And that's like the things I learned about alcoholism. I learned that from instinct and protection from my father, because I didn't know what was going to happen when he was drunk. I think they call that now trauma-informed learning in therapy, right? There's an awful lot of learning that trauma has informed us. We learn now. So, not to insult anybody's ideas of Christmas, but I think it's okay to challenge a little bit about Christmas. The one thing I do appreciate are the acknowledgments of the gifts, which are gold, frankincense, and myrrh, because they have real spiritual properties as well. Frankincense connects to the internal light, the vibration that anchors you, then the truth that you are always connected. Frankincense is a very powerful healing incense. We use it for cleansing. I use it for your body. It also is really good at taking away muscles that hurt. and it smells really great too. It's a nice one. Gold is supposedly connects you with the collective consciousness and is the gift fit for a high being, a king. Gold is the highest vibration. Cleanses the energy around you. Wearing it on your hands, on your body, helps cleanse the energy around yourself. So it's the highest and most sought after metal in the world. The thing about myrrh is interesting because it initiates death, but the death that triggers a rebirth. The same thing about solstice. The rebirth of the essential loving presence inside you. The sacred. The birth of the profane, or the birth of the snakeskin. The birth of the outer that's not true, and initiates the rebirth of shedding to be what you really are, which is definitely what happened to Jesus. He had to go through all sorts of things to shed the earthly part of himself. So there's lots of things that are fitting. I would like, if it's okay, to have us if you're okay with that. In terms of the accuracy, again, concept, most of the scholars agree that the language that Jesus spoke was Aramaic, right? We've pretty well established that. It was the language of all the common people in Assyria at the time, and Judaism, and Israel didn't exist, obviously, but the countries at the time, which had much more primitive names than now. But the common language was Aramaic before Hebrew. Hebrew was the language of the scholars. And then when the Greeks took over, the language of the scholars then. But they never really adopted the Roman languages. But all the traditional names of Abba and Father and all those are all come from the Aramaic, sorry, originally. And there's a woman who teaches primarily in the tradition of Mary Magdalene, and she's kind of an expert in Aramaic, and she's in Spain, and I really always appreciate how she talks about how many of the original translations of Aramaic were lost when they were translated into Greek, and especially into Latin, which is a much more, what you would call straight up language. In Aramaic, every word is multidimensional. It carries layers of tone and feeling that speak not just to the mind, but to the body and the soul. To understand the Christic mysteries, we return not to the words, but to the vibration from which they come. And this woman not only speaks in Aramaic, but she sings in Aramaic. I've played her music at one time, but I'm going to read a little piece pretty soon. Aramaic was the language of intimacy, the language of family, friendship, and devotion. For example, the word shalma, always translated as peace, means wholeness, harmony, completion, coming into oneness. Ruka, translated as spirit, also means breath, wind, movement, vibration. Hanumata doesn't just mean faith, it means covenant and relationship. So it's like the words originally have a much more, for one thing, feminine connotation, as well as a movement connotation. Latin and Greek are words by cultures that were very logical, right? And very male, very left-brained. Aramaic, Hebrew are cultures that are more right-brained, more feminine, more flowing, more movement. So I appreciate that. Another example. The way she explains it, when the translations were made, they were reshaped to fit cultural and political frameworks. And definitely when the King James Version of the Bible was done, it was set to fit the English transition of power at the time, not some original thing. Malkuta is translated as the kingdom of heaven. It actually means the realm of divine presence realized through embodiment. It's spirit taking into you. It's not something from the outside. The word tebusha, as repentance, means to come home to the God within. It's not something negative. It's not a thing being yelled at you about to repent. No, it's just to come home, to come back into yourself. The Aramaic translation is more compassionate and restorative. It's not guilt. I really appreciate that concept. And Abum, which is the way they refer to the Aramaic language now, has often been reduced to our Father in heaven, but its original meaning is, O birther, mother, father of the cosmos, you create all that moves in light. It's much more expansive. It definitely includes the feminine. So all of these things were never meant to be dogmas. They were meant to be living parts of us, okay? So that's what I want to appreciate. And that's also why I appreciate unity, because it's a living and more obvious, inclusive part of the world. Inclusion is what's important to us now. So if it's all right, I'd like to invite you into a little meditation with some music. Okay, music master. And I'm going to read a translation of the Lord's Prayer originally from Aramaic in different words. I've done it before. But I'd also like the music to continue for a while longer after that, where you make your own prayer in your words, because that's what this is really about. It's not copying anybody else. It's making the prayer that comes that is uniquely yours, the life that's uniquely yours, the presence that's so uniquely yours. Okay? O birther, mother, father of the cosmos, you create all that moves in light. Focus your light within us. Make it useful. As the rays of a beacon show the way. Create your reign of unity now through our fiery hearts and willing hands. Your one desire then acts with ours. As in all light, so in all forms. Grant what we need each day in bread and insight, subsistence for the call of growing life. Loose the cords of mistakes binding us, as we release the strands we hold of others' guilt. Don't let us enter forgetfulness. Free us from unripeness. From you is born all ruling will, the power and the life to do. The song that beautifies all from age to age it renews. Truly, power to these statements. May they be the source from which all my actions grow, sealed in trust and faith. What is your prayer? And as you close, remember to pray for yourself. We don't just pray for other people. We pray for our own self, and especially to remember ourselves in times when everything is somehow focused on the outside. And with all the words that we can use, Shalom, Amen, peace be upon you, so mote it be. Blessings. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Merry Solstice. Happy Hanukkah. Blessings. Let us sing. Yes. Please, go ahead. The prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. We are the light. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love. The power of God protects us. We are the power. And the presence of God watches over us. We are the presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. All right, let's circle around. So I think my favorite line of that whole prayer is, let us not lapse into forgetfulness. And that's why I guess this theme of awakening is always to remind us that we have to reawaken all the time. We have to renew. We have to start again. We have to go as far as we can, and then we get kind of bogged down, and we get old and tired, and we get sick, and all the other things happen, and we have to wear boots on our body, and all the other things that weigh us down, and then we have to start again. So we always renew, and the more times we do it, the more way we can. Thank you. Thank you.
What is the name of the woman in Spain?
I can give you the reference. I'll write it down for you.
Okay, great.